You are now listening to the Tapped In Podcast. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for tapping in and for being here today. So, I've had some stuff on my mind. I've actually worked it out a lot throughout the past couple days. I've had such amazing time with friends and family. Actually, not so much family, if I'm going to be honest. Family was amazing during the holidays, but for New Year's, I have been so connected with my connections that I decided to make. I guess my chosen family, I guess you could say. So I feel like I'm coming down with something also. I don't think I have a cold, but I think I'm getting a little congested. I don't know if it's allergies, but I sound a little nasally, so I thought I'd just let you know now. But yeah, I've just been getting really in tune, really connected with other people, and it's honestly really helping me get super connected within myself, because I feel like that the more that I'm around other people, the more I get connected with myself, because I realize more about what I want, how I respond, how I react. And being in solitude a lot is healthy. It can be healthy in a lot of ways, but it also can be detrimental because being an introvert, staying away from society, you can't see the growth. You can't even see your own growth if you don't hang out with other people and realize your differences. So I've just been hanging out with other people, and it's just been feeling so good. It's been feeling very nurturing to my soul. And so when I hang out with people I'm super close to, we end up talking about super deep things, and we get so deep in conversation, and it's a beautiful thing. So I guess that's the reason why I felt like I didn't really have a podcast idea. I have no notes. I'm just kind of going with the flow today. And something that popped into my brain while I was meditating, and honestly, right before I started this podcast, are patterns, thought patterns, and cycles that we repeat over and over again that are not beneficial to our lives. We seem to, as humans, repeat patterns that are detrimental to our souls, that are detrimental to our hearts, to our bodies, to our health. We seem to continue on these patterns that don't improve our lives, even though we know and we have a feeling. We don't really listen to it, but we know and we have a feeling that these patterns are not signifying to who we are. They're not exactly part of our alignment, part of our growth, but we still continue to repeat these patterns, to repeat these cycles. And for example, for me, I've noticed my cycles and I've noticed my patterns within the past week or so, maybe the past month. I would say December has been super transformational for me. But it's been in the past couple weeks where I'm noticing patterns of my old self and how she would have these thought processes of, thinking in scenarios and just overthinking and overanalyzing in a very negative light. And I didn't even realize that was a pattern of mine until I decided to tap in to why are these patterns actually a part of me? Why did I decide to let these patterns become a part of my journey? And it takes the acknowledgement of your patterns before you can actually step into the new version of you and release those patterns. So I feel like we do patterns because we decide to stay in a constant being of the past. And I feel like that didn't make sense, so let me explain that. I feel like that we stay in our comfort zones, in our comfort feelings, no matter where we are, no matter what exactly we're doing. We decide to stay in our feelings that are comfortable. Therefore, when we don't choose to step out of our comfort zones, to step out of the discomfort and rewire our brain to new thought patterns, it's so easy to fall back to the old ones. It's so easy to fall back to the old ways because it was easy and it was comfortable. But it was so detrimental to us. It was not beneficial to our hearts, to our souls, and to our growth as humans. We all need to grow. And I feel like that the more that we repeat these cycles, the more we keep our bodies living in the past, obviously, the less likely we are going to be able to grow and embrace our futures and embrace how we want to feel. We keep living in how we used to feel. And instead of embracing the now and embracing the unknown, we decide to think and overanalyze what we have to do or what we used to do or how we used to be and how we want it to trickle into our present moment. And for me, for example, I feel like I fell into the thought patterns that were obviously very detrimental, very thoughts of unworthiness and insecurities. And, you know, whenever I would meet new people, these insecurities would pop into my mind and be like, oh, don't forget that you're insecure about this. And, oh, don't forget this. And it's just kind of like, don't forget you have anxiety. And it's just kind of like, okay, I don't necessarily know why these would come into my brain. And it's not like it would come up and say that, but it's almost like a feeling you'd get in your body that is just kind of like anxiety. And, you know, instead of being in the present moment and comfortable within my body, I decided to let the anxiety build up inside of me, therefore affect how I interact with people. It would affect how I would start a conversation, end a conversation, be in a conversation. I couldn't be present because I was so fixated on my own emotions. And I feel like I've been working so much on my internal dialogue and my rewiring of my brain with the point where I'm hanging out with people and I'm meeting new people and I'm not necessarily thinking about what I don't like about myself or my insecurities or my anxieties or whatever it may be. I'm thinking about the present moment and my conversation with the other human. And I feel like that it always should have been like that. But for me, it has not. For me, I have let my thoughts affect how I would interact with people. And I've noticed that was a pattern inside of me. I noticed that pattern stopped me from making deeper, further connections. And so once I actually started creating those deep, you know, connections with people, I was like, wow, like, did I actually used to hold myself back? Because the less I hold myself back, the deeper and the more connections I make. And honestly, the better I feel. You know, it all feels like it's somehow tied in with each other. And I feel like once I realized that I have these thought patterns and that I have these repeated cycles and these repeated patterns, I decided that releasing them is what would be best for my soul and best for my future self. Because if I were to hold back, what would I actually be getting? What would I actually be getting in return? Holding back leaves nothing but stagnant energy. And, I actually don't know the definition of stagnant. You might, so great for you. But I'm actually going to look up the word stagnant definition. So, have no current or flow, often having an unpleasant. Okay, so that's pretty much talking about stagnant water, but not flowing pretty much. So I feel like I wasn't letting my energy flow. And I feel like that if you don't let your energy flow and you don't just kind of, as cliche saying, go with the flow, then it can really alter how you talk to yourself, how you talk to other people, and just how you interact in general. So I feel like that as humans, we obviously all have gone through traumas. We have all gone through different cycles of life, and we decide to stay in the past emotionally. We decide to keep our emotional body in the past. And what I mean by emotional body, it's not just your physical body. But I read this in a book. I'm so sorry, I can't remember what book it was. It could have been the 4 Agreements. Pretty sure it was the 4 Agreements. But if I'm wrong, I thoroughly apologize. But I was reading a book and it mentioned that we have an emotional body. And I was like, interesting. So you know how, when you get bruised up, you get punched in the face, or, you kind of just stub a toe, whatever it is, whatever it may be that leaves a bruise, we obviously have to heal from that on our physical body. We have to heal. We have to let it do its thing. We have to let the body do its thing. And sometimes when we're sick, we have to heal our bodies. We have to rest. We have to eat. We have to eat right. We have to realize what we're putting into our bodies. We have to take care of it, nurture it, bring it back to health. So we have emotional bodies, which I would consider my soul, but souls are so complex that when I say emotional body, I'm mostly talking about just emotions. So I consider it an invisible being that is just over my body. It's an invisible aura that is just over my body. And once people say hurtful things or jab at you with gossip or jealousy or hate, whatever it may be, and it's to your face, you're hit in the emotional body. You're bruised into your emotional body. And what we do as humans, we don't heal those because we can't see it, but we feel it though. We feel that emotional wound that just gets deeper and deeper the more that it gets jabbed and jabbed and jabbed. And as we grow up as adults, from our childhood traumas, we keep getting jabbed in that emotional body. And as we grow to adults, we let adults jab us in the emotional body. And of course, we're not children anymore. We might want to respond. We might want to react. And reacting is not always the best option depending on the situation. If I'm going to be honest, reacting in a violent or negative light will never end well. Reacting in revenge or reacting in just any light that can be detrimental to the other person will also be detrimental to you. But we don't heal our emotional body. And so when we're jabbed with these, I would say these emotional daggers, I don't know, I just kind of made that up. Once we're jabbed with these emotional daggers, we're kind of just left there to bleed out in our emotional body. And we have not bandaged it up. We have not, taking care of that wound. We kind of just let it open. And that's why it keeps getting jabbed and hurt and stabbed. Because we're not doing the proper work to close it up. So it's the fact that there's some emotional bodies out there that are so bruised that it's almost more comfortable to be in the bruised emotional body than it is to heal. Because healing can feel like work on work on work, and especially when you're coming from something so traumatic, it can really feel like that the pain and that the emotional body that is bruised will feel more comfortable. It'll feel more stable. It'll feel just easier. But if we really want to become our highest selves, if we really want to benefit and grow from whatever situation we're in, and, a life event happens that is so significant in our lives that affects us very, very emotionally. Sometimes it takes a situation like that in order for us to tap into the emotional body. And once we do, we realize, like, I've been living like this for years. And it hurts to realize that. It does. But once you do realize that, once you acknowledge it, that's a sign of growth. That's a sign of development. That's a sign of change. And it's a hard realization. None of it is ever easy to realize. But once you do find out, oh, I do this because of this, or oh, this hurts because somebody said this to me, or, once we realize like where it all stems from, then we start to figure out how we can release these patterns, or at least that's what it was for me. Sometimes for other humans, they realize these things, but they don't want to grow. They don't feel the need to. They feel like that they're comfortable where they are, and they would rather complain instead of find a solution. They would rather find the problem instead of the solution. And honestly, it's just not my way of living anymore. I can't, personally, I can't complain, and I can't live in a world that I can't come up with the solutions. I can't live in a world where I overstress or overthink or overanalyze. And that's what my old emotional body used to do. That's just how my brain, it still works that way, But I really do feel like that in a lot of ways, my emotional body has healed, and she has grown, and she has gone through a lot of development. And I'm so proud of her. And if you are stepping into 2023 with old patterns, and you realize your old patterns, you've acknowledged your old patterns, your old cycles, and you notice what you do, no matter if it's physical or emotional, if you notice that you don't, if you notice you don't make your bed, or if you notice that you decide to leave your laundry, if you decide to let all of it pile up, if you decide to, I'm not in school, but if you are in school and you decide to procrastinate on your homework, or if you notice that you let the dishes pile up, or if you notice that you aren't taking care of yourself, as in nurturing your body with healthy foods, or you're not stretching, or you're not moving your body in some way, we need to release those patterns that are holding us back. And we need to figure out how we can enlighten ourselves, enlighten our souls and our bodies to the highest potentials. Because we all got it. We all have a body. We all have a soul. It's just what we decide to do with it is how the outcome of our lives will reside. Does that make sense? You can't respond, so I'm not sure. But I really hope that somebody got something from this. I feel connected with this topic And I'm noticing patterns that I'm releasing, and I'm noticing that the patterns that I did decide to release were so detrimental to me. And now that I've realized that, releasing them has felt like a weight has been lifted. It feels like that I've been held back my whole life. And I don't have to be held back. You don't have to be held back. It's not something that we should just throw away. You know, we have to remember that obviously we're humans. A step forward sometimes means a step back. And that step back is what you needed to make that step forward. So I really hope that this podcast tapped in something inside of you. And I really hope that my voice wasn't annoying. But yeah, I just hope that you guys got something from this. I hope that there are patterns that you notice within yourself and you want to put in the work to change them, especially if it's a detrimental pattern. And notice your emotional body. Notice what wounds are most unhealed, and start from there and work your way up, because it's one step at a time. It's one day at a time, one pattern at a time. It's not something that has to be done in one day. So, really hope y'all enjoyed today's podcast. I had a great time talking about this. Repeat after me. I love me. Say it back. And I accept myself, and I accept this life and all that comes with it. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for tapping in. Have a lovely day, and I love you.